Sometimes evil doesn't arrive with fanfare. It doesn't kick down the door or announce itself with fire and thunder. Sometimes it walks quietly, wearing the face of a neighbor, a coworker, a man you might nod to at the grocery store. And sometimes it takes years, years of whispers, of grief, of unanswered questions, before evil finally makes one mistake, one slip, one careless detail, one crack in the mask. And when that happens, all the lies come crashing down. This is the story of a small town haunted by a string of brutal murders, a man who nearly got away with them all, and the one tiny mistake that exposed a serial killer hiding in plain sight. But it's also more than that. It's a story about prejudice, about how fear blinds communities, about how the truth, though buried, never disappears, it waits. Because as you'll see, no matter how carefully darkness tries to cover its tracks, the light of justice always finds a way through. It began in Brookhaven, a small suburban town, the kind where everyone knew everyone or thought they did. A town where doors were left unlocked, where gossip traveled faster than the news, and where the idea of a murderer living among them felt unthinkable. But in the summer of 2005, everything changed. A young woman named Claire Matthews vanished. She was 22, bright, working 2 jobs to save for college. She never came home one night. At first, people whispered, maybe she left town, maybe she ran off with someone. But 2 weeks later, her body was found in the woods just outside town, and the peace of Brookhaven shattered. Then came another victim, and another. Each case more chilling than the last. The killer left almost nothing behind. No fingerprints, no witnesses, no DNA. Just silence. And fear. The town changed. Doors locked at dusk. Neighbors eyed each other with suspicion. Rumors spread, some cruel, some wild. And slowly, people looked for someone, anyone to blame. The police struggled. Every lead ended in smoke. Every trail went cold. And with each new victim, the pressure mounted. That's when the whispers turned into accusations. A man named Marcus Hale became the target. Marcus was quiet, kept to himself. He worked late shifts at the factory, didn't socialize much, and had a reputation for being strange. He was black, living in a predominantly white town, and prejudice painted him guilty long before evidence ever did. People muttered his name in grocery aisles. Parents pulled their children closer when he walked by. And when detectives needed someone to question, Marcus was the first they dragged into the station. But Marcus wasn't the killer. He was just easy to blame. And while the town turned its suspicions on him, the real predator walked free. Detectives doubled down. They watched Marcus's home, pulled him in for interrogations, questioned his coworkers. But nothing tied him to the crimes. Still, prejudice spoke louder than truth. And when a 4th victim was found, the town demanded action. The prosecutor pushed for charges. Marcus was nearly indicted, despite the complete lack of physical evidence. His life was torn apart, his name stained, his family shunned. And through it all, the real killer grew bolder, confident, almost untouchable. Then it happened. The killer made a mistake. A small one. So small it nearly went unnoticed. The 5th victim, a young nurse named Emily Carter, was found in an abandoned cabin just outside town. Forensics combed through the scene. Nothing at first. No fingerprints. No hair. No weapon. But under the table, pressed into the dust, was a shoe print. It was faint, almost missed. But it was there. A local detective named Sarah Whitfield noticed something. The tread pattern wasn't just any shoe. It was a custom work boot. Expensive. Rare. Only a handful of stores in the state even sold them. And when the list was checked, only 3 pairs had been sold in Brookhaven. One of them belonged to Marcus Hale. But when investigators looked closer, the size didn't match. And Marcus's boots showed years of wear. The print at the cabin? Brand new. The 2nd pair belonged to a farmer miles outside town. His boots were accounted for. The 3rd? They belonged to a man named Richard Cole. Richard was no outsider. He was a respected contractor. A family man. Someone people trusted. The idea that he could be the killer felt impossible to many. And when the investigation began to circle him, powerful people stepped in.
His friends.
His allies. The same ones who once pushed Marcus toward conviction. They said the evidence was circumstantial. They said Richard was being framed. They said the town needed to stop chasing ghosts.
But the shoe print didn't lie.
Detective Sarah dug deeper. Receipts, phone records, surveillance cameras. Slowly, the puzzle came together. Richard wasn't just suspicious. He was guilty. When Richard was finally brought into court, the mask fell apart. Witnesses spoke. Forensics tied him to the scenes. And the jury, once blind, now saw clearly. Marcus, once branded the monster, was cleared completely. His name restored, though the scars of suspicion never fully faded. And Richard Cole, the man who hid behind wealth and respectability, was sentenced to life in prison. But here's the thing about justice. It isn't always fair. It isn't always on time. Marcus lost years of his life to whispers, to prejudice, to suspicion. Families lost loved ones to a killer who thrived in silence. And a community learned how easily fear can blind people to the truth. But this story teaches us something powerful, that the smallest details matter. That even when power tries to silence, even when prejudice blinds, truth waits. One shoe print, one small mistake. That was all it took to unmask a killer and prove that no lie, no matter how carefully built, lasts forever. Because justice may be delayed, but it is never destroyed.